I was watching my entire career implode in real time on 3 computer monitors. The middle screen showed my NFT marketplace dashboard sales counter frozen at 12 pieces, sold, then suddenly reversing numbers, dropping like a countdown to zero. $4,000 evaporating as refunds processed automatically. The left monitor displayed my Twitter feed, except I was not the one posting. My own account verified checkmark, and all was publishing a confession thread I had never written, calling myself a scammer, a thief, a fraud who stole from my own family. The right screen showed my Discord server, hundreds of messages, flooding in collectors, demanding explanations, artists I respected, calling me out my reputation, disintegrating with every refresh. My hands hovered over the keyboard, frozen. I tried to log into Twitter to stop it. Password incorrect. I had been locked out of my own account. I tried the marketplace. Account under review. I tried Discord. Someone had changed my username to Violet the Scam Artist. I watched paralyzed as 3 months of work, years of reputation building, and my entire professional identity burned to the ground in less than 20 minutes. Then I saw it. The hallway security camera feed in the corner of my left monitor. My brother Eli walking past my locked door with his laptop under his arm, looking at his phone screen with a smile I had never seen before. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Something darker. Something that looked like victory. My brother Eli had finally crossed a line he could never uncross. If you want to hear how I went from being a doormat to taking back complete control of my life and how my toxic brother ended up losing everything while I built my dream career, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story gets so much better. Drop a comment below if you have ever dealt with a family member who thought they could destroy your life without consequences. Trust me, you will want to hear how this ends. Let me take you back to where this nightmare really began, not 6 months before that devastating notification, but actually 3 years earlier when I first moved back home. I was 22 years old, fresh out of college with a degree in computer science and exactly $2,300 in my bank account. The job market was brutal. Tech companies were doing mass layoffs. Startups were folding left and right. I had sent out over 200 applications and gotten maybe 15 interviews, all of which ended with some version of "we are looking for someone with more experience." So when my parents offered to let me move back home to Palm Springs while I figured things out, I said yes. I thought it would be temporary. Maybe 6 months, a year at most. That was my first mistake. The house I moved back into was the same Spanish-style villa I had grown up in, with its terracotta roof tiles, arched doorways, and a kidney-shaped pool that sparkled in the relentless California Sunday. My childhood bedroom had been converted into a gym, so I was given the spare room at the end of the hall, the one that used to be a storage space. It had one window that looked out at the neighbor's wall, terrible cell service, and a door that did not lock properly. But it was free and I was broke, so I made it work. Eli was already living there. He had never left. At 27 years old, he occupied the master guest suite on the 2nd floor, the one with the balcony and the attached bathroom and the walk-in closet. He had been living there rent-free since graduating high school 9 years earlier. He had gone to community college for a semester, dropped out, worked a few part-time jobs at fast food places and retail stores, quit all of them within months, and eventually just stopped trying. My parents never pushed him. They said he was finding himself, that he needed time, that not everyone follows a traditional path. I did not understand the full dynamic yet. I thought maybe Eli was depressed, that he needed support, that as his younger sister I should be patient and kind. I tried to be. When I started freelancing, doing basic web design projects for $200 or $300 each, Eli would sometimes ask to borrow $20 or $50 for gas or food or some game he wanted. I would give it to him. He never paid me back, but I told myself it was not a big deal. Family helps family, right? The first few months home were manageable. I spent most of my time in my room learning new programming languages, teaching myself 3D modeling and digital illustration, building a portfolio. I discovered NFTs almost by accident through an online art community. This was early, before the massive boom, when most people still did not understand what they were. I was fascinated by the technology, by the idea of digital ownership and smart contracts and decentralized marketplaces. I started creating simple pieces, experimenting with generative art and pixel animations. My first sale was for 0.05 Ethereum, which at the time was worth about $87. I was ecstatic. I ran downstairs to tell my parents, thinking they would be proud. My mom was in the kitchen making dinner. My dad was reading the newspaper at the table. Eli was on the couch playing some first-person shooter game with his headset on, yelling at strangers through the microphone. I announced my sale, trying to contain my excitement. My mom smiled and said that was nice honey before turning back to the stove. My dad asked what an NFT was, and when I tried to explain blockchain technology and digital scarcity, his eyes glazed over. He said something about how it sounded complicated and went back to his newspaper. Eli, though, took off his headset and turned around. He looked at me with this expression I had never seen before. It was not quite anger, not quite jealousy, but something darker. Something hungry. He asked how much money I actually got after fees and gas costs. I told him about $60. He laughed this sharp, mean laugh and said, "Wow, 60 whole dollars, you are really making it big, Vi." Then he put his headset back on and went back to his game. That moment should have been a warning, but I was too naive to read it properly. Over the next year, I got better at creating and selling NFTs. I joined communities, collaborated with other artists, learned about marketing and collector psychology. My sales went from $80 to $200 to $500. I started making more money from NFTs than from my freelance web design work. I was still living at home, but I was paying my parents $300 a month in rent, covering my own food and expenses, and actually saving money for the first time in my adult life. Eli, meanwhile, had not changed at all. He was still unemployed, still gaming, 12 hours a day, still mooching off our parents. But something was shifting in the house. I could feel it in the way my mom would make little comments about how I was always on my computer, always locked away in my room, always so focused on my art that I did not spend time with the family. My dad would occasionally suggest that maybe I should look for a real job, something stable with benefits and a salary, not this risky internet stuff. The thing was, I had looked for real jobs. For months. I had dozens of rejection emails to prove it. But now that I was actually making money doing something I loved, they acted like it was not legitimate. Like I was wasting my time. Eli picked up on their disapproval and amplified it. He started making comments every chance he got. Walking past my room, he would mutter just loud enough for me to hear. "Must be nice to play on the computer all day and call it work." When I would mention a successful sale at dinner, he would roll his eyes and say something about how anyone could sell junk to idiots with too much money. When I bought myself a new digital drawing tablet with my own earnings, he asked our parents loudly why I got to waste money on expensive toys while he could not even afford a new gaming console. The comparison was so absurd it was almost funny. Except my parents did not shut it down. They would just give me these tired looks like I was causing problems by succeeding. But I kept going. I had to. This was my way out. I upgraded my equipment slowly. I bought a better computer, a second monitor, professional drawing software. I invested in online courses to improve my skills. Every dollar I made went either to rent to savings or back into my business. I was building something real. Then came the first major theft. It was a Tuesday morning and I had just woken up. I checked my wallet like I did every morning and saw that $200 cash was missing. I kept cash in my wallet for emergencies tucked into a drawer in my desk. The drawer was not locked because there was not a lock on it, and I had foolishly believed I could trust the people I lived with. I went downstairs and asked if anyone had been in my room. My mom said no, looking confused. My dad said no, looking annoyed that I was bothering him. Eli was not awake yet. I waited until 1 in the afternoon when he finally emerged from his room, and I asked him directly, "Did you take money from my wallet?" He looked at me like I had accused him of murder. "What? No. Why would I do that? You think I am a thief." I did not have proof. I could not prove it. But I knew. The way he would not make eye contact. The way he got defensive so quickly. The way he turned it around on me, making me feel guilty for even asking. My parents overheard the conversation and called us both into the living room. This turned into a whole thing where they lectured me about making accusations without evidence, about how hurtful it is to call someone a thief, about how we are a family and we need to trust each other. Eli sat there looking wounded and innocent. I sat there feeling crazy. That night, I installed my first security camera. It was a cheap one I ordered online for $40, just a basic motion-activated camera that I tucked on top of my bookshelf angled toward my door. I did not tell anyone about it. 3 weeks later, it caught Eli. I was out meeting with a potential client at a coffee shop. I got a motion alert on my phone, opened the app, and watched in real time as Eli used some kind of thin card to Jimmy. My door lock opened, walked straight to my desk, opened the drawer where I kept my wallet, and took three $20 bills. He looked directly at the camera for a split second, but I do not think he saw it. The lens was small, hidden behind some books. I had video evidence. I had him dead to rights. I drove home immediately, my heart pounding with anger and vindication. I was going to show my parents. I was going to make them see. When I got home, Eli was in his room. My parents were in the living room watching television. I asked them to come to my room because I had something to show them. I pulled up the video on my computer and pressed play. They watched in silence. My mom's hand went to her mouth. My dad's jaw tightened. When the video ended, I turned to them and said, "This is the second time. Maybe more that I do not know about. He has been stealing from me." There was a long, heavy silence. Then my mom said, "Why did you put a camera in your room?" That was her question. Not "Why is Eli stealing from you?" Not "We are so sorry this happened." But "Why do you have a camera?" I stared at her. Because my money kept disappearing and no one believed me. My dad spoke up then. "This feels like an invasion of privacy, Violet. You recorded your brother without his consent." "He was in my room without my consent," I said, my voice rising. "He broke into my room and stole my money. You just watched him do it." My mom started crying. "This is tearing our family apart. We need to handle this with love and understanding. Eli is clearly struggling. He needs help, not punishment." I could not believe what I was hearing. I looked at my dad. "What would you like me to do?" He sighed that deep, exhausted sigh that I would come to know so well. "We will talk to Eli. He will pay you back, but you need to take that camera down. It is not healthy to spy on family members." I did not take the camera down. I added 2 more. One in the hallway outside my room, one angled at my window. And I bought a smart lock for my door, the kind that requires a code to open. My dad was furious about the lock, said I was being dramatic and paranoid, but I installed it anyway. It was my room, my space, my right to feel safe. Eli never paid me back those $60. My parents claimed they talked to him, but nothing changed. He just started avoiding me more, shooting me hostile looks whenever we crossed paths. The house felt like a war zone with battle lines drawn and everyone choosing sides. My parents and Eli on one side, me on the other. Except for Grandma Evelyn. She lived in the converted guest house behind the pool, a small studio with a kitchenette and a garden she tended obsessively. She was 70 years old, sharp as a tack, and had zero patience for nonsense. She had watched Eli's decline over the years with increasing disgust, and she had watched my parents enable him with even more disgust. When I told her about the theft and the cameras in the lock, she nodded approvingly and said, "Good. Protect yourself. They will not do it for you." She started inviting me over for tea in the evenings. We would sit in her little garden surrounded by roses and lavender, and she would tell me stories about her own life. About how she had left an abusive marriage in her 30s with 2 small children and $37 in her pocket. About how she had built a career as a real estate agent when women were not supposed to have careers. About how she had learned the hard way that kindness without boundaries is just self-destruction. "You have something special, Violet," she told me one evening as the sun set over the desert. "You have talent and drive and discipline. Do not let anyone take that from you. Not even family. Especially not family." I asked her why my parents could not see what Eli was doing. Why they kept making excuses for him. She was quiet for a moment, pruning a rosebush with careful precision. "Because they are terrified," she finally said. "They are terrified that if they stop supporting Eli, if they demand that he stand on his own 2 feet, he will fail completely. He will end up homeless or addicted or worse. So they keep enabling him, thinking they are saving him, not realizing they are drowning him. And you are collateral damage." "What should I do?" I asked. "Build your escape plan," she said simply. "Get so successful they cannot ignore you. Get so financially stable they cannot control you. And when the time is right, get out." So that is what I did. I threw myself into my work with obsessive focus. I spent 16, 18, 20 hours a day learning, creating, networking, marketing. I joined every NFT community I could find. I collaborated with more established artists. I studied what made collections successful and what made them flop. I experimented with different art styles, different storytelling techniques, different pricing strategies. My follower count grew. 500, 1,000, 5,000. Sales went from hundreds to thousands. I started getting featured in digital art blogs and crypto news sites. Collectors started recognizing my name. My work had a distinct style, a signature aesthetic that people could identify immediately. And the more successful I became, the worse Eli got. It was like watching someone slowly poison themselves with jealousy. He stopped even pretending to look for work. He gained weight from sitting all day. He stopped showering regularly. His room, which I glimpsed once when my mom asked me to bring him something, was a disaster zone of food wrappers, empty soda cans, and dirty laundry piled everywhere. But the worst part was the comments. He developed this habit of making cutting remarks disguised as jokes. At dinner, he would say things like, "Hey Vi, when are you going to get a real job and contribute to society?" Or, "How much did you scam someone out of today?" When I got a particularly big sale, he would say, "Must be nice to take advantage of stupid people with more money than sense." My parents would laugh nervously and tell him to be nice, but they never actually shut him down. Never actually told him his behavior was unacceptable. They treated it like typical sibling banter, like we were kids fighting over toys instead of a grown man trying to tear down his sister's legitimate career. The breaking point, the thing that set the final chain of events in motion, happened on a Saturday in February. I had been working on the Crystal Visions collection for 3 months straight. It was my most ambitious project yet. 25 unique hand-drawn pieces, each one a surreal landscape of geometric crystals and flowing energy, each one programmed with rare attributes and special unlockable content. I had lined up partnerships with 3 established collectors who had agreed to promote the drop. I had been featured in an article on a major crypto art website. The buzz was building. This was going to be my breakthrough. The launch was scheduled for 8 p.m. The entire day I was locked in my room doing final checks, testing the smart contracts on the test network, uploading high-resolution files, writing descriptions, setting up the minting page. Everything had to be perfect. Around 6 p.m. the banging started. Eli was pounding on my door so hard the frame shook. His voice was slurred and aggressive, and I could not tell if he was drunk or high or just that angry. "Open this door right now. I need money. You owe me. You have been hoarding money in here while I am broke." I ignored him. I had learned that engaging only made things worse. I kept working, checking, and rechecking my code, my hands trembling slightly from the adrenaline. The banging continued. Harder. Louder. Then came the shoulder slams. He was physically trying to break down my door. "I am going to break this door down," he yelled. "You think you are so special with your stupid computer art. You are pathetic. You are wasting your life. Mom and Dad are disappointed in you. Everyone is embarrassed by you." Through my security camera monitor, I watched him throw his full body weight against the door. The frame creaked but held. The smart lock was doing its job. I saved the footage to my cloud storage, to my external hard drive, and to an anonymous email account. I had gotten very good at documenting everything. From down the hall, I heard my grandmother's voice, sharp and commanding. "Eli, leave your sister alone. She is working. You should try it sometime." "Get out of the way, old woman," Eli snarled. "This does not concern you." "Everything that happens in this house concerns me," Evelyn shot back. "I own half of it, in case you forgot. And I am telling you to get away from that door before I call the police myself." There was more shouting, but I could not make out the words. Eventually, the banging stopped. I heard Eli's heavy footsteps stomping away, heard a door slam so hard somewhere in the house that picture frames rattled. I finished my launch prep at 7:45. 15 minutes to spare. I sat back in my chair, tried to breathe steadily, tried to calm my racing heart. This should have been a moment of excitement and anticipation. Instead, I felt exhausted and rattled and angry. At exactly 8 p.m., I launched the Crystal Visions collection. I posted to Twitter, to Discord, to Instagram. I watched the first few pieces sell within minutes. The comments were incredible. The excitement was building. Collectors were messaging me. Other artists were congratulating me. This was it. This was everything I had worked for. For the first hour, everything was perfect. 12 pieces sold. Nearly $3,000 already, with more pending. The momentum was building beautifully. Some of the biggest collectors in the space were paying attention. I was riding high. Then at 9:17 p.m. my phone exploded. Notifications flooded in so fast my phone started lagging. Twitter mentions, Discord pings, Instagram DMs, all coming at once. My heart sank before I even looked at the screen. I knew something was catastrophically wrong. I opened Twitter and felt the blood drain from my face. My account, my professional account with 15,000 carefully cultivated followers, was posting a thread I had never written. The first tweet said, "I need to come clean about something. I have been lying to all of you." I tried to log in to delete it, but my password did not work. I had been locked out of my own account. I could only watch in horror as tweet after tweet went live, each one worse than the last. My brother Eli has been struggling financially for years while I hoarded money. I told him I would help him, then refused. I have been stealing from my own family. Here is proof. There were screenshots. My crypto wallet address, my transaction history, all of it edited and manipulated. Transactions I had never made. Wallet balances that were completely fabricated. It looked like I had thousands of dollars just sitting there while my family suffered. None of it was real, but it looked convincing. Horribly, devastatingly convincing. The thread continued. The Crystal Visions collection is a scam. The art is plagiarized from smaller artists. I have been taking their work and claiming it as my own. Here are the originals. More screenshots. Pieces that looked vaguely similar to mine but were clearly not the same. But to people who did not know my work intimately, who were just scrolling by, it looked damning. It looked like proof. The final tweets were the kill shot. I am a fraud and a thief. Do not buy from this drop. I am going to be running with your money. This whole thing is a scam. I am shutting down my account and disappearing. Consider this my confession. The response was immediate and brutal. Other artists were tagging me, demanding explanations. Collectors were canceling their bids. People were calling me a scammer in quote tweets. The NFT community is small and tight-knit, and drama spreads like wildfire. Within 30 minutes, my reputation was in shreds. My phone rang. It was a notification from the marketplace. Drop canceled. Refunds initiated. Policy violation reported. Account under review. $4,000. 3 months of work. My entire reputation. Gone in less than an hour. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. I pulled up my security camera footage and scrolled back. At 8:53 p.m., the hallway camera showed Eli walking to his room with his laptop. At 8:57, it showed him emerging, looking at his phone with a satisfied smile. At 9:15, just 2 minutes before my world imploded, it showed him walking back into his room, closing the door softly. He had done this. My own brother had sabotaged my career, my income, my reputation, because he could not stand to see me succeed. I called Faye. She answered on the first ring, heard the panic in my voice, and said, "Talk to me." What happened? I explained everything through tears of rage and shock. She was quiet while I talked, and I could hear her typing in the background. When I finished, she said, "Send me everything. Every IP log you have. Every security camera file. Every piece of data from your router. Twitter data, if you can get it. Send it all to my encrypted email right now. We are going to find out exactly how he did this." I spent the next 2 hours pulling data. IP addresses from my home network. Access logs from my computer. My Twitter archive data before I was locked out. Every piece of digital breadcrumb I could find. I sent it all to Faye. While I waited for her analysis, I drafted a statement to my community. My hands were shaking so badly I had to retype it 3 times. I explained that my account had been compromised, that the posts were not from me, that I was working with a cybersecurity expert to trace the attack. I posted it from my backup Instagram account, pinned it to my secondary Twitter, shared it everywhere I could. Some people believed me. Most did not. The damage was done. Trust once broken in the NFT space is almost impossible to rebuild. Faye called me back at 2 in the morning. I traced it. The account access came from an IP address inside your house. From a device registered to a user named eJet. Your brother's laptop. He used a password logger, probably been collecting your passwords for weeks or months. He accessed your Twitter at 9:03 p.m. and started posting from his device. It was not even sophisticated, Violet. He did not even try to hide it. Can you prove it? I asked. Absolutely. I have screenshots of every log, timestamps, device signatures. This is ironclad evidence. You could take this to the police. I lay in bed for the rest of the night, not sleeping, just staring at the ceiling. Part of me wanted to storm into Eli's room and scream at him. Part of me wanted to go to my parents and show them what their son had done. Part of me wanted to pack a bag and leave forever. But mostly I felt something cold and sharp solidifying inside me. Not anger. Not even hatred. It was clarity. Pure cristalline clarity. For years I had been playing defense. Protecting myself, documenting, but never actually fighting back. I had been hoping that if I just kept my head down and worked hard, eventually everyone would see the truth. That was over. Defense was not enough anymore. It was time to go on offense. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. I got dressed. I walked downstairs where my mom was making coffee and my dad was reading the news on his tablet. Eli was still asleep as always. I sat down at the kitchen table and said calmly, I need you both to come to my room. Now. I have something you need to see. My mom looked worried. My dad looked annoyed. But they followed me upstairs. I sat them down in front of my computer and pulled up the security footage from the hallway. I showed them Eli walking to his room with his laptop at 8:53 p.m. Then I showed them my Twitter account being hijacked at 9:03. Then I showed them the IP logs that Faye had analyzed. Then I showed them the device signature match. Then I showed them my destroyed collection, the refunded sales, the $4,000 I had lost. This is what Eli did last night, I said quietly. While I was launching the biggest project of my career, he hacked my account and destroyed it. He cost me $4,000 and possibly my entire reputation in this industry. This is not an accident. This is not a misunderstanding. This is deliberate sabotage. My mom's face went pale. My dad just stared at the screen. For a long moment, nobody said anything. Then my mom whispered, maybe there is an explanation. Maybe someone else used his computer. Maybe it was a mistake. I pulled up additional footage. Eli looking at his phone with a satisfied smile at 9:15. Eli returning to his room looking pleased with himself. I played it without commentary. My dad finally spoke. This is very serious, Violet. We need to talk to Eli about this. No, I said firmly. You are not understanding. I am not asking you to mediate a sibling argument. I am telling you that Eli committed a crime. He hacked my account. He defamed me publicly. He caused me substantial financial damage. I am going to the police. I am hiring a lawyer. This is not a family matter anymore. This is criminal. My mom started crying. Violet, please. We are a family. We can work through this. He is your brother. A brother who just destroyed my career, I said. A brother who has stolen from me multiple times. A brother who has verbally abused me for years. When does being family stop being an excuse for criminal behavior? My dad's face hardened. You are overreacting. This is ridiculous. We are not getting lawyers and police involved over a fight between siblings. I stood up and looked at both of them. Then I will do it without your support. I have evidence. I have witnesses. I have documentation of years of harassment. You can either be part of the solution or you can stand with him. But I am not backing down. I walked out of the room before they could respond. I went straight to Grandma Evelyn's house. She took one look at my face and put the kettle on. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said simply, do what you need to do. I will support you. That afternoon, I contacted a lawyer. Her name was Jennifer Roth, and she specialized in technology law and cybercrime. I sent her every piece of evidence I had. She called me back 2 hours later and said, this is one of the clearest cases of computer fraud and defamation I have seen. He did not even try to cover his tracks. We have multiple avenues for legal action here, both civil and potentially criminal. What do you recommend? I asked. She thought for a moment. First, we file a cease and desist letter. This puts him on formal notice that his actions were illegal and demands he cease all contact with you. Second, we file a civil suit for damages. The $4,000 in lost sales, plus any other documented financial losses from previous thefts. Third, we contact law enforcement and file a report for computer fraud. Let the police decide if they want to pursue criminal charges. And fourth, we get a restraining order if he violates the cease and desist. I felt something loosen in my chest. For the first time in years, someone was taking me seriously. Someone was treating this like the serious matter it was. Not a family squabble. No sibling drama. A crime. Do it, I said. All of it. The cease and desist letter was delivered by certified mail 3 days later. I was not home when Eli received it. I was at a coffee shop with Faye working on rebuilding my Twitter account and trying to salvage what I could of my reputation. My mom called me 7 times in a row. I did not answer. Then my dad called. I did not answer. Then Eli called from a number I did not recognize. I definitely did not answer. Finally, my grandmother called. You should come home, she said calmly. All hell is breaking loose and you will want to see this. When I arrived home, my parents were in the living room looking shell-shocked. Eli was pacing back and forth, waving the cease and desist letter, his face red with fury. The moment he saw me, he exploded. You are suing me. Your own brother. Over what, some fake internet money and hurt feelings? You are insane. You are trying to destroy this family. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, and said nothing. My grandmother appeared beside me, solid and reassuring. Eli kept ranting. Mom, Dad, you see this, right? You see what she is doing. This is abuse. She is weaponizing the legal system against me because I called her out on her scams. My dad finally found his voice. Violet, this is too far. Lovers. Lawsuits. This is your brother. I pulled out my phone and opened the video evidence again. I held it up so everyone could see. This is my brother hacking my account and destroying my career. This is my brother stealing from me on camera. This is years of documented abuse. So yes, Dad, this is my brother. And these are his actions. And there are consequences. My mom was crying now. Please, Violet. Please do not do this. We can work it out. We can all sit down and talk. I have been trying to talk for 3 years, I said. Nobody listened. So now I am done talking. The cease and desist is just the beginning. I have also filed a police report for computer fraud. An officer will be contacting you all soon. The room went dead silent. Eli's face went from red to white. You did what? I filed a police report. What you did is a crime, Eli. Not just morally wrong. Not just mean. An actual crime. And you are going to face the consequences. Eli lunged toward me. Grandma Evelyn stepped between us immediately, surprisingly strong for her age. Do not even think about it, she said coldly. My dad pulled Ellie back. Everyone was shouting. My mom was sobbing. It was chaos. And through it all, I felt perfectly calm. I had spent so long being the one crying, being the one begging to be heard, being the one absorbing everyone else's dysfunction. Now I was the storm. And there was something clarifying about that. Officer Harris came to the house 2 days later. My parents tried to control the narrative. They told him I was unstable, that I was obsessed with my computer, that I might be a danger to myself or others because I was not coping well with stress. They were trying to paint me as the problem. Officer Harris asked if he could speak with me privately. I brought him to my room and showed him everything. The organized folders of evidence spanning 3 years. The detailed timeline of theft and harassment. The security footage. The financial records. The IP logs. The screenshots of the defamatory posts. The emails from the marketplace canceling my drop. Every single piece was labeled, dated, cross-referenced, and backed up in multiple locations. Officer Harris spent over an hour reviewing it all. He asked clarifying questions. He took notes. He made copies. When he was done, he looked at me and said, Miss Jett, this is one of the most thorough documentations of harassment and computer fraud I have seen from a civilian. You have done our job for us. So it is a real case? I asked. I am not overreacting. You are absolutely not overreacting. What your brother did is computer fraud, identity theft, and defamation. These are serious charges. I am going to need to speak with him now. We went back downstairs. Eli was in the living room trying to look casual, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. Officer Harris's demeanor changed completely. He was no longer the friendly neighborhood officer. He was cold, professional, intimidating. Mr. Eli Jett, based on evidence provided by your sister, you are currently under investigation for computer fraud, identity theft, and defamation. I strongly advise you to cease all contact with Miss Violet Jett immediately. Do not approach her. Do not message her. Do not post about her online. If this investigation confirms what the evidence suggests, and frankly it is overwhelming, you will be facing criminal charges. Do you understand? Eli's mouth opened and closed like a fish. No words came out. He looked at our parents for help. They looked just as shocked. Officer Harris continued. I also want to make clear to everyone in this household that filing a false report about Miss Jett's mental stability in an attempt to discredit her could result in additional charges. I reviewed the evidence. She is not unstable. She is protecting herself from a legitimate threat. The threat being you, Mr. Jett. He turned to me and handed me his card. Miss Jett, you have every right to pursue this further. My department will be in touch with updates. You have also filed a civil suit, correct? Yes, I said. For financial damages and restitution. Good. You are doing everything right. I will be including my findings in a report that your lawyer can use. He nodded politely to my grandmother, ignored my parents, and left. The silence after he left was deafening. Eli looked like he had been punched. My parents looked devastated. My grandmother looked satisfied. "You set the police on me," Eli finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "No," I said calmly. "You set the police on yourself when you committed crimes. I just documented them." He turned to our parents. "Are you going to let her do this? Are you going to let her destroy me?" My dad looked older than I had ever seen him. He rubbed his face with both hands and said quietly, "What exactly did you do, Eli?" "Nothing," Eli shouted. "I did nothing. She is making it all up. Those videos are fake. She is framing me." I pulled out my phone again. "Do you want me to play them?" "Right now. In front of everyone. Because I have dozens of videos spanning years. Pick a lie, Eli. I probably have footage that proves otherwise." He deflated. He actually physically deflated his shoulders, slumping his whole body, seeming to collapse in on itself. He mumbled something about needing to go to his room and disappeared upstairs. My mom turned to me. "How could you do this to your own brother?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt years of suppressed anger finally rising to the surface. How could he do this to me? That is the question you should be asking. How could he steal from me? How could he sabotage my career? How could he spend years tearing me down? And how could you watch it happen and do nothing? "We did not know it was this bad," she whispered. "Yes, you did. You just did not want to see it. Because seeing it would mean you would have to do something about it. And it is easier to tell me to be patient, to be understanding, to let things go. It is easier to sacrifice me than to hold Eli accountable." My dad spoke up. "We love you both equally, Violet." "Love is not the issue," I said. "The issue is that you have spent years enabling his worst behaviors while expecting me to be perfect. You let him steal from me and told me to forgive him. You let him destroy my career and asked me not to make waves. You have made it clear over and over that keeping the peace is more important than my safety or my sanity. So I am done. I am protecting myself since you will not." I walked out. I went back to my room, locked my smart lock, and sat in the dark for a long time. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings and family chaos. My lawyer filed the civil suit formally. The police investigation moved forward. Officer Harris confirmed that the IP addresses, device signatures, and timestamps all pointed conclusively to Eli. The evidence was overwhelming. But the most unexpected thing happened during this time. My parents slowly and reluctantly started to wake up. It was not a sudden transformation. It was more like watching ice melt, slow and painful and irreversible. It started with my dad. He pulled me aside one evening and asked if he could see all the evidence himself. Not just the highlights, but everything. I gave him access to one of my backup drives. He spent an entire weekend going through it. When he was done, he looked like he had aged 10 years. He came to my room and knocked quietly. "Can I come in?" he asked. I unlocked the door. He sat on my bed looking down at his hands. "I did not know," he said finally. "I mean, I knew things were bad, but I did not understand the extent. I did not understand that this has been going on for years. I did not understand how calculated it was. I thought it was just normal sibling conflict." "It stopped being normal sibling conflict when he started stealing from me," I said. "It definitely stopped being normal when he committed computer fraud." He nodded. "I am sorry. I am sorry we did not protect you. I am sorry we made excuses for him. You are right. We enabled him. And we sacrificed you to keep the peace." It was the first real apology I had ever gotten from him. It did not fix everything. But it was something. Me mom took longer. She could not let go of the idea that family should forgive everything, that we should work things out internally. But even she could not deny the evidence anymore. The final straw for her came when she found out about the password logger. Eli had not just hacked my Twitter in a moment of anger. He had been systematically collecting my passwords for months, maybe years. That level of premeditation scared her. She came to me crying one night. "I am afraid," she said. "I am afraid of what Eli has become. I am afraid we did this to him by not giving him consequences." I told her gently, "You did not make him this way. But you did not stop it. And now it is out of your hands. He has to face real consequences now. Not from you, from the legal system. The most shocking development came from my parents themselves. 3 weeks after the cease and desist was delivered, they sat Eli down for a conversation I was not part of, but Grandma Evelyn told me about later. They told him the enabling was over. No more allowance. No more car insurance. No more free rent. He had 30 days to find a job and a place to live, or they would cut him off completely. Eli apparently lost his mind. Threatened to sue them, though, for what I had no idea. Threatened to never speak to them again. Threatened to trash the house. My dad, to his credit, stood firm. You can leave on your own or we can evict you, but this is over. Those 30 days were a nightmare. Eli tried to contact me constantly. He created burner phone numbers to call and text me. He made fake social media accounts to message me. He tried to approach me in public twice, once at a coffee shop and once at the grocery store. Each time I documented it and forwarded it to my lawyer and Officer Harris. Each violation made his case worse. He even tried to get other family members involved. He called my aunt in Oregon and fed her some story about how I was trying to destroy him over jealousy. She called me to ask what was going on. When I sent her the evidence, she stopped returning Eli's calls. On day 28 of the 30-day deadline, Eli finally moved out. I watched from my window as he and 2 guys I did not recognize loaded boxes and trash bags into a beaten-down pickup truck. He looked smaller somehow. Defeated. Angry but defeated. He did not look up at the house. He just got in the truck and left. My grandmother stood next to me sipping tea. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Relieved," I said. "And sad. But mostly relieved." "That is normal," she said. "You can mourn what the relationship should have been while being glad it is over." The civil court date was set for 6 weeks after Eli moved out. My lawyer assured me we had an airtight case. The evidence was undeniable. Unless Eli could somehow prove that someone else had used his computer from his IP address at that exact time, while he was in his room alone, he had no defense. He did not even show up to court. His lawyer showed up and tried to argue that the damages were exaggerated, that NFTs were not real art, and therefore had no real value, that this was a family dispute that should not be in civil court. The judge shut him down quickly. I was awarded the full $4,000 in damages from the sabotage, drop $3,000 in documented unpaid loans and court costs. The judge also issued a formal 2-year no-contact order. Eli was legally prohibited from contacting me in any way online or in person. I left the courthouse feeling lighter than I had in years. Faye was waiting for me outside. She hugged me tight and said, "You did it. You actually did it. Part 1 is done," I said. Part 2 is rebuilding. And rebuild I did. I relaunched the Crystal Visions collection 8 weeks after the hack. This time I had new security measures in place. 2-factor authentication on everything. Password managers, VPNs, encrypted backups. I was not taking chances. I also released a YouTube video explaining what had happened. Not for sympathy, but for transparency. I showed the evidence, though. I blurred Eli's face and did not use his name. I talked about the harassment, the sabotage, the legal battle. I talked about the importance of protecting yourself even from family. Especially from family. The video went viral in the NFT community. Not in a scandal way, but in a solidarity way. Hundreds of other artists reached out to share their own stories of family members who did not support them, who sabotaged them, who tried to tear them down out of jealousy. I became unexpectedly a voice for artists dealing with toxic family dynamics. The Crystal Visions relaunch was a massive success. It sold out in 3 hours. $22,000. Messages of support flooded in. Collectors who had pulled out during the scandal came back. New collectors found me through the story. The collection kept selling on secondary markets, and I earned royalties on every transaction. With that money, I moved out. Not just out of my parents' house, but into my dream apartment. A downtown loft with floor-to-ceiling windows, exposed brick, and a view of the city skyline. I set up a proper studio with professional equipment, perfect lighting, and most importantly, absolute privacy. No locked doors needed. No security cameras watching my back. Just peace. My career exploded from there. I landed collaborations with major brands. I was interviewed on NFT podcasts and digital art streams. I got verified on Twitter, rebuilt my reputation stronger than before. Within 6 months, my income hit 6 figures. I was not just surviving. I was thriving in ways I had never imagined. Meanwhile, word about Eli filtered back to me through my grandmother. He was working as a parking attendant at a mid-range hotel downtown. He was living in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment with 2 roommates. He was taking the bus everywhere because he could not afford car insurance anymore. He was eating microwave dinners and instant ramen. His social media accounts were mostly dormant. I did not take pleasure in his suffering, but I did not feel guilty about it either. He had earned his consequences. Every single one. My parents sent me a letter 3 months after I moved out. It was handwritten, delivered by my grandmother because they did not have my new address. The letter was full of apologies and regrets. They said they understood now what they had done wrong. They said they missed me. They invited me to dinner to talk to rebuild. I read the letter sitting on my balcony, the city lights twinkling below me. I thought about everything that had happened. The years of gaslighting and enablement. The theft and the sabotage. The way they had taken his side over and over until I had no choice but to take legal action. The way they had only changed after the police and the courts got involved. I tore the letter into small pieces and let the wind carry them away. My grandmother visited me the next week. She brought a cutting from her garden, a small lavender plant in a terracotta pot. "Your parents asked if I gave you their letter," she said. "I got it." She waited. And I did not respond. She nodded. "You do not owe them forgiveness just because they finally woke up. Forgiveness is earned, not demanded. And it certainly is not immediate. I do not know if I will ever forgive them," I admitted. "I do not know if I want them in my life." "Is that wrong?" She set the lavender plant on my balcony railing. "There is no wrong answer here, Violet. Only what is right for you. Some relationships can be repaired. Some cannot. Some should not be. You get to decide which this is." I raised my wine glass. "To consequences." She clinked hers against mine. "To freedom." That was 8 months ago. Today, my NFT collections regularly sell for 5 figures. My community has grown to over 50,000 followers across platforms. I have been invited to speak at conferences about digital art, about building creative careers, and about setting boundaries in toxic family dynamics. I teach workshops for young artists. I donated my old security equipment to a women's shelter that helps domestic violence survivors. I volunteer teaching digital art to at-risk teens. I have not spoken to Eli since the court case. The no-contact order is still in effect for another 16 months, and when it expires, I plan to have no contact anyway. He is a stranger to me now. A cautionary tale. My relationship with my parents is complicated. We text on holidays. Brief, polite messages. "How are you?" "Fine. Happy Thanksgiving." "You too." They have not seen my apartment. They have not met my new friends. They know about my career success only through what they see online. I have not been back to that house. I do not plan to go back. My grandmother, though, visits me twice a month. We have lunch at nice restaurants or tea on my balcony. She is proud of me, she says often. Not just for my success, but for my strength. For protecting myself when no one else would. Living with toxic people taught me something crucial. You cannot change people who do not want to change. You cannot make someone respect you if they have decided you are not worth respecting. But you can change yourself. You can decide that you are worth protecting. You can build boundaries that actually hold. You can walk away from people who drain your light even if they share your blood. Boundaries do not start with other people. They start with you. The moment I decided I was worth fighting for, everything changed. Not because my family suddenly started treating me better, but because I stopped accepting treatment that made me less than I am. Some people will call you selfish for protecting yourself. Let them. Some people will say you are tearing the family apart. You are not. You are refusing to be torn apart anymore. There is a difference. If you are in a situation where someone keeps taking from you, whether it is money, energy, peace, or dignity, you do not owe them one more second of your life. You do not owe them your success. You do not owe them forgiveness. You owe yourself the chance to build a life where you are valued. So here's my question for you. What boundary do you need to set today? What relationship is costing you more than it is giving you? And when are you going to choose yourself? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you. And subscribe because I share more stories about breaking free, building boundaries, and choosing yourself. Your future is waiting. Stop letting the wrong people hold you back from it.